Namaste and welcome to Youth TV show Making Nepal Proud Globally, produced by Today's Youth Asia. In 2008, Today's Youth Asia established 3 prestigious awards: Everest Summit Award, Excellence Achievers Awards and Young Achievers Awards to honor changemakers, leaders, achievers from diverse fields around the world. In today's episode, we're going to felicitate an international persona by Excellence Achievers Awards. Today we have with us Dr. D. Aker, Deputy Director of John B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice, as our chief guest. Today's Youth Asia today is felicitating Leslie Abdallah by Excellence Achievers Award. Leslie Abdallah is an international women's human rights campaigner and gender post-conflict specialist who has worked for over 25 years in the field of gender development. She was in Kathmandu for 6 months as a gender advisor to UN's humanitarian programs in Nepal. Now I take this pleasure in requesting our chief guest, Dr. D. Aker, to hand over the Excellence Achievers Award to Leslie Abdallah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dee. This is just a great honor, and I really wasn't expecting it. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, as I was taken by surprise, I don't remember exactly what I said, but the gist of what I was saying was that I didn't feel it was me that should be getting an award, but I felt it was the Today's Youth Asia group with Santosh Shah and Mandira Raut, who I've watched over the last few years grow this group, and I've been so impressed by it that I've used it as an example, not just in Britain, but to talking to groups around the world, of people in the media and civil society groups, of exactly the type of thing people should be doing. So I hope one day they get an award that they deserve as well. So I'm very honoured. Thank you. And I also think one of the points I made, and I feel very strongly about, is that the new generation coming up in Nepal, the people in Youth Asia and all the other young people, are the future of this country, and amongst them particularly the women, the girls. Because I know I've worked in many countries in conflict, and it's not that women are nicer or sweeter or decenter than men, but they are very, very highly motivated to the future, to building the future. And I think that the idea of the girls and boys working together, or men and women working together in partnership, is where the future of a country lies. And right now, when there's so many difficulties, I think the future of Nepal lies with the women leaders. I'd like to see a lot more women taking leadership role in groups in Nepal, because I know many of the women civil society leaders here. I was here for 6 months 2 years ago with the UN agencies, and I'm so impressed with the courage of women right across the political spectrum, and I think that they're also rather good organisers. I have a feeling that the roads might get repaired in Kathmandu, and the medical services might get better out in the countryside, and more girls would get to school if there were more women in a position, not just in the parliament, but leading in the communities, leading in parliament, leading in the government. Right, without thinking, I would say a smile, actually. Strong, many of them, courageous, certainly, and having to cope with some very, very tough situations. But I think it's more than that. I think it's a very interesting transitional period here, because you have some fantastic traditions, but some traditions are not so fantastic. And when I think of Nepali women, when I'm away from Nepal and I can look back, some of the women that stick in my mind most are widows that I've met across the board. And I think that they are possibly the strongest people, but also the most badly amongst the most badly treated. And I was just shocked, and many of us in Britain and around the world have been shocked at this new law suggesting men should marry widows for money. If there is some money to give to the men, for goodness sake, give it to the widows. They know what to do with it. There's well-organized groups here of widows who are doing fantastic training and self-help. All they're lacking are resources and respect. So I think that's one group of women who I think of. I also think of the women civil society leaders when I'm away from here. And amongst them, I go back to Mandira Wright, who's one of the leaders here with the others, young women in Youth Asia, but also the other women leading women's organizations, of whom I had the privilege to meet many, not just in Kathmandu. I traveled out to parts of Midwest, Terai. I haven't been to the eastern Terai yet. So I think of those who are often taking up really tough issues of women who've experienced violence, women who are trying to get their children educated, and also trying to combat some of the practices around things like giving birth, like the Chowpadi practice, which I think is one of the traditions I hope does evolve or change, because I think it's a cruel tradition, a really cruel tradition, whereas many of your traditions are very attractive, fine, and very beautiful. The other thing I think about Nepali women are colours. I envy the way you all dress, I started out in life actually wanting to be a painter, and so I'm very aware of colours. And when people ask me about Nepal, one of the things I say is, you just have to see, it doesn't matter, the poorest woman walking across the field, the colours, the sense of colour that they have is fantastic, or you have, all of you.
Today's Youth Asia, since 2002, creating future leaders for Nepal, connecting young leaders all over the world, making Nepal proud globally. Today's Youth Asia, GPO 8975, EPC 5478, Kathmandu, Nepal. Email address youthmag@doublelink.com.np. Website www.tyasia.org.
I think the world's going through some really critically serious problems right now. I'm normally an optimist. I'm not feeling very optimistic at the moment. I think the issue of climate change, where we're seeing, I mean, even today when I'm about to travel, we're having weather in Britain that we don't often get, but I know from people in Ethiopia, I was talking to on email yesterday, that their weather is having very damaging effect on crops, year to year to year, not just one-offs. So climate change, the economic collapse, certainly in the developing world, certainly in the developed world actually is suffering more on that. Conflicts still, I mean, 50% of all conflicts roughly start again within 10 years. So I think if we're going to have a chance of solving those problems, we need to pull on all the talent, not just half the talent, and that means women. And not just pull on women as, you know, oh, we'll put a few women there in that position, but women, not just women coming forward and having to elbow their way in, but a general acceptance that we can't solve the problems of the world unless there is real equal partnership of women and men. And I think that does come down. It starts off with girls' education, not just academic, but the type of things that Youth Asia does. You asked me about my memories of, or how I see women. One of the things that stayed was Youth Asia came to me when I was working here and said, would I come and give a talk to a group of youth on a Saturday morning? And I said, fine. It's my day off, so therefore I could do what I wanted on that day, so I said yes. Now, I had assumed they were all about 18 or 19 and upwards in age. And I walked into this room in Kathmandu, and there were about 70, 75 kids, if I could call them that, 13 years old and upwards. And I was terrified. You know, I've been in Iraq on the ground with guns firing and things like that, but I think the most frightening experience of my life was walking into that room, because I've never worked with or interacted much with youngsters as young as that before in groups. I mean, I have one child of my own, but that was different. And within minutes, I was blown away by these youngsters. They were from right across different castes, different backgrounds, different schools.